All right, anyway, welcome everyone. First of all, I just want to say amount of just a gratitude and thanks for everyone that helps set up for these services every day. It's a great job, thank you. I know you have to get here early to do that. And I want to welcome everyone here, everyone that is joining us on the ACIM Gather, and all those folks that are going to join us later and on YouTube. And I know the talk is going to be so good, everyone's going to go watch it on YouTube because they want to get a second hit. Okay, Steve said he would. The title of my talk today is Be the Happy Learner. Now notice what I started is Be the Happy Learner, meaning it is something that we have to take action on. And as many of you probably know, there is a section in A Course in Miracles, chapter 14, section 2, that's titled The Happy Learner. And it's something that I love about the Course in Miracles, right? Because, in this hologram of time that we all appear to be experiencing, the Course in Miracles is a very brilliant teaching curriculum for us all. Because if you notice, from the beginning of the book, and as the book, through the text and all that, and the lessons and the teacher's manual, it kind of comes back to themes, different themes that are central themes that are important, but it often uses, like a good teacher would do, different approaches, knowing that some of us will learn and pick out pieces that relate more to our frame of reference or our background. So this is actually what I'm inspired to talk about when it says be the happy learner, is to think of our lives as being like students in a classroom. And what's the classroom? It's our entire life, right? It's like a metaphor. It's all our relationships. It's where we show up in the morning when we're working, or when we're going to the store. It's anywhere in the world that we happen to be, whatever our minds are encountering. The news, our hobbies, our activities, all right? It's all of our classroom. Now, it's a very good metaphor for me because, as many of you know, I'm a teacher. So every day when I'm working, I actually do go to a classroom. And I do go, and part of my job is to teach young people the basics, and then I'm a high school teacher mostly, so I specialize a little bit more in certain, math and geometry and algebra and U.S. history and modern world and all those specific classes. So it does really relate to me. And I also think that this time of year, for our country, is when a lot of people go back to school, okay? And so millions of young people, whether it's preschool or elementary school or middle school or high school, college, graduate school, all right, can I go on, are going back to work. And then also millions of professionals that support the educational system are going back to work. So it's a pretty good actual practical metaphor. Now, before I go on, I must say that I've met many folks in life, Course in Miracles in life, and many people have had, kind of difficult experiences in the educational system. And it's provided a lot of healing opportunities for them. And as a member of the educational system, I recognize that a lot of times our schools are not super set up for all kinds of learners, and it's a struggle for some people. So I do have to say that I hope that the Course in Miracles curriculum is more effective than our current educational system, but I do think that we're getting better, so that's important. Okay, so when I got this inspiration to do this talk, I said, okay, well, let's look at chapter 14, and what does the Holy Spirit say about how we can be happy learners in every instance in our life? And interestingly enough, it had some pretty specific prescriptions for that. Like, what can we do to be the happy learner? To wake up every day and say, hey, this is my classroom, and let's have fun, right? Let's enjoy our learning. So here's what from the reading that Reverend Vincent did today, here's the first level of awareness that we need. The Holy Spirit needs a happy learner in whom his mission can be happily accomplished. You who are steadfastly devoted to misery must first recognize that you are miserable and not happy. Okay, so I know, a lot of us are A Course in Miracles students. We're really working on trying to shift our perceptions here and there from different circumstances that happen, and I think a lot of the times a lot of us are really in good places, but probably most of us would admit that we may not be enlightened all the time. And so the way I recognize, I relate to this particular quote is, we just have to do that. We just have to recognize those times when we're not happy, when we're in our ego, right? That's the first approach that Holy Spirit gives us about how we can be the happy learner. I had one of those experiences this week at work. It was actually Friday. It was the end of the week, and I came in. I was a little bit tired. I had been out a little bit late the previous evening. It was my first week back, and there was a lot going on, and I just really got, I just was feeling stressed. A lot of people had demands, students and others that I work with had demands on me, and I was just like, oh God, I was feeling anxious about not getting certain things done. I was feeling resentful about people asking me for things, and sometimes I feel like that it's, it's not part of my job description. I'm at a very small school. There's no on-site administrator, but I have the most experience on the staff, the educational staff. And so, a lot of things come to me, and I was being resentful about, gosh, why are they doing this? And like literally, I heard, like the thoughts I was having was like, I just want to get out of here. I don't want to do this job anymore. I just want to retire, And so, I got into my victimization, my resentments a little bit. Okay, so I'm a Course in Miracles student. I recognized it, right? I recognized that I was not thrilled like I had been earlier in the week. And so I said, okay, all right, guidance was, finish your work for today, leave, go to the gym, and I had a friend coming in from out of town who was staying in our home. I had to get home and make sure he was, okay. And then I just had that evening to be able to, one thing, sometimes when I've got all these feelings, I just wrote it out. I just wrote out what was kind of going on for me. And I just wrote it out, and I just turned it over to the Spirit. And it shifted. That's just what the process was. So it's it's the miracle, the method of the miracle, or the means can sometimes take different ways. Now, there's other ways which the Holy Spirit tells us that we can be the happy learner. Accept your blessedness. This is from that section, although we didn't read it, it is in that part of the text. You can learn to bless and cannot give what you have not. If then you offer blessing, it must have come first to yourself. Let me read that again. You can learn to bless and cannot give what you have not. If then you offer a blessing, it must first have come from yourself. So this made me think about, I've had an experience this year. Some of you know that I play in the San Francisco Gay Softball League, and I'm a coach. And when you take authority positions, you're sometimes criticized. And I had this experience this year of a player not even on my team, but after a game, come up and confront me in a very challenging way, because my team is a new team, and we hadn't won any games, I think, at that point in the season. And so we lost a lot of games, and was very confrontive about, why we weren't winning, and that it was pretty much my responsibility because we weren't winning. I wasn't addressing things properly as a coach. And that was really hard for me to hear. And I was angry, and I had to walk away from the person. I was kind of that upset about the whole thing. And after, but of course it was really interesting that even while this person was criticizing me, and this is how we are as course students, there was that part of my mind, oh, Peter, he's showing you a part of my mind that's unhealed, this criticism, because I certainly was not feeling great about our team not winning any games, and he was kind of showing this. So I still had that. I had my ego, right? I had my ego reaction, my ego feelings and anger and frustration and feeling picked on and all criticized. I don't like those experiences. But the course was already kicking in. There was a part of me that was already saying, oh, this is a healing lesson, you're gonna have to turn this over. And so, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, this incident took place probably a couple months ago. I'm still not healed with that person yet. I still don't, when I see this person, I don't have a positive feeling, but I'm working on it. I'm just working on it. It is a process. And what I noticed in preparing for this talk is that if you take the criticism and separate out the emotion and the way he did it, there was some value in what he said. He gave me some good feedback. It was something we had to work on, one aspect of softball. And I started doing it in the practice, and we started getting better. So there was truth coming from it, even if I didn't necessarily like the approach to it, So that was really good. But at the same time, it is, some lessons take longer than others. The Holy Spirit gives us another way that we can be the happy learner in this classroom that is our world. It says, offer your faith to the Holy Spirit. Here's the quote. If you would be a happy learner, you must give everything you have learned to the Holy Spirit to be unlearned for you. And I think what happens is, a lot of us, I still make this mistake all the time, but I think what we do is, oftentimes we make the experiences in our life real, okay? Now, what I'm saying there is that we forget that they're lessons, right? They're temporary. They're there for us. They're not the end of the world. They're not the end of our existence, right? They're our different experiences. So, and it brought to mind, there is this example I have, is there's this television show on Netflix. It's called Rita, and it's about it's a Denmark series about a teacher in Denmark, and she's this totally irreverent teacher, okay? And it's really good. She teaches in the Danish version of an economically challenged school, where there's, overcrowding by Danish standards, not by American standards, classroom. But, a lot of the kids are working class, or, they have some of the problems that we associate with our urban schools, per se, and things like that. And in one of the scenes, the show was on for about 3 seasons, and one of the scenes, she was always in trouble with the administration, right? She was doing things, and I think one of the administrators, who she eventually would have a relationship with, said to her, what's the most important thing? What's the most important reason for you to teach? And she says, to save my students from their parents. And I connected, did I say irreverent, right? And I connected to that. Now, of course, it's kind of a snide comment and whatnot, but it did connect to me as well, because in my job, I'm a special educator. And because in special education, you have students with disabilities, and they have needs that have to be met. There's a lot of legal conditions, a lot of circumstances and things you have to do. And so one of the things is you have to meet at least once a year, and often several times a year with parents. And sometimes what I've noticed in myself is that, I do sometimes feel like the parents are not helping the child. And I do speak up sometimes. But I notice that there still is some of that residual fear, about not wanting to upset the parent. Now, part of this is realistic. Part of it is that they have tremendous educational rights in the legal system, and it's not like I'm supposed to go in there and attack what they want. But there are times I feel like that I need to be like Rita, Unfortunately, maybe it's just not the children, say from the parents, but sometimes the system. And so, that is kind of what I need to unlearn. Remember, the quote goes back. We've conditioned ourselves to the way of the world. We've been conditioned to fear authority, We've been kind of conditioned to do that. And some people rebel against it, and that's, like Rita was kind of a rebeller, But as the show showed, sometimes that rebellion didn't work, and sometimes it caused more harm than others. So we know as Course in Miracles students that as we go on more and more, we try to be in that place where we're asking for guidance, where we're trying to present, okay, what is the best way to go forward here? All right, but this is one area where I've learned that this year is what I want to do, is to be more aware of, like, ultimately, as a teacher, I'm an advocate for the student. And my fear can, I'm hoping that as much that my fear can't interfere with that. Course in Miracles goes on to say, and this is a direct quote, the happy learner cannot feel guilty about learning. The guiltless learner learns easily because his thoughts are free. So this is something I think we need to keep continuing to learn. How many of you have had the experience where you're going through a hard time and you say, if only I'd done my taxes on time. If only I hadn't, said that to my friend, my lover, my partner. If I hadn't said that, look at all the problems it caused. If only, if only, if only, if only. Bullshit. Okay? The Course in Miracles says bullshit. Okay? All right? Because the truth of the matter is, folks, the script's been written. We sometimes do things that are in our higher interest. We need to heal them. And sometimes what may appear to the world as being like, we screwed up, we did something wrong. Okay? This is exactly what it's saying. All right? That all our job then within that experience that we're having is to forgive ourselves or forgive our brothers and sisters through that process. And we'll be guided. What does that forgiveness like? Who knows what it's like? Maybe it means I have to pay $10,000 in damages, Or maybe it means that I have a healing conversation with someone whom I wouldn't have had otherwise. That a deeper healing takes place. So whatever we're going through, in a way, the regret or living in the past is not helpful. The guilt is not helpful. Course in Miracles says, the joy of learning that darkness has no power over the joy of God is the happy lesson the Holy Spirit teaches and would have you teach with Him. So this kind of connects to the last idea that we were talking about, being guiltless, is that we have power over everything that happens in our lives. And it's just a decision that we can make. How can we be the happy learner in our classroom that is our life? Decision. The power of decision is our own. Quote the Course lesson, right? So, yes, the world has the hierarchy of illusions, right? It tells us, okay, this, having a splinter in your thumb is lower on the hierarchy of illusions. But losing your lover is that's a bad one. Oh my gosh, everyone feels sorry for you. You get a lot of sympathy for that. If you complain about your thumb being sore, ah, come on, take it out, put a little salve on it, a little ice, you'll be fine, right? But what the Course is really saying is that our real peace and our real happiness to be the happy learner is to just wake up every day and say, hey, this is my classroom today. Holy Spirit, what are we going to learn? Right? Rather than putting the preconditions on it, this is how I want it to be. And I'm a teacher, I have preconditions. I have my lesson plans, and it should go like this. And if it doesn't go like this, oh my gosh, what's going on? That happens to me sometimes. But when I'm in the space where I'm like, oh, okay, Johnny's having a hard day with this lesson. Oh, so-and-so is, this is happening. Oh, we can't meet for class today because, the principal needed to have a meeting, whatever, right? When those unexpected things happen, remember we have the power to choose. So be the happy learner. And that's my talk for today.
Where did you go? Why did you leave me? I was dazed, but my strength is forgiveness. You ran and left me for dead, lying with a serpent all around my neck. And now I'm walking through the gates of the town to see how beautiful you are. How beautiful you are. All my forbidden fruits, I've got to keep on feeding like a dog in a cage. And now you lie here like honey in the palm of my